Chris Profit. And sports with Don Sharp. And now, 4 News Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Phil Dawson, and if you spot Sandy Volkers of Davenport this weekend, a local radio station says they will give you $100. Volkers is the winner of KFMH Radio's Terry Willett's Get Lost Weekend, and if anyone finds her, they win a cash prize. The station announced the contest winner this afternoon in the parking lot of the Call building in Davenport. The place, attorney Terry Willets, was last seen before she disappeared May 3rd, only to turn up 5 weeks later saying she had lost her memory.
But the best one was Sandy Volkers of Davenport. Sandy, will you come on over here, please?
As they received Get Lost Weekend, she gets $200 to help her disappear.
You're going to split, and we don't want you to tell anyone, because all this weekend we're going to circulate your likeness around the Quad Cities and describe you, and if someone finds you, they'll get $100. Sandy, there's $200.
Thank you very much. I'm just ecstatic.
But while Sandy Volker may be happy, at least one other woman at the prize giveaway was not so pleased at what she sees as mockery of the Terry Willets incident and violent attacks against women in general.
The parody they were doing of Terry Willets' misfortune has worked to damage her reputation. It has cast it in the light of being a lark that she went off on.
Do you buy the story that she got hit over the head here and had amnesia?
Terry's story has very little to do with what I'm doing here. I think that a lot of people in our society are damaged by backstabbing, rumor, and innuendo. Violence in this country is the issue here. I think that something has happened to a woman in this community that is onerous, shameful, naughty, nasty, mean, vicious.
When will this be closed? Why aren't you worried
never.
about it? It may never be. So the
Next week, the Call building parking lot in the streets of Davenport will again be the scene of a demonstration as the Quad City Women's Resource Center holds their Take Back the Streets rally. The protest over crimes against women was scheduled after the disappearance of Terry Willets. The U.S. Supreme Court says dial-a-porn...
10-year-old Tony Royark will get a chance to withdraw his guilty plea in bad taste, and a confrontation took place today between the members of the group and the station personnel. KFMH today completed what it's been calling its Terry Willett's Weekend Getaway Contest by awarding a woman $200 for the best excuse to get away. All this took place in the parking lot where Terry Willets disappeared, and the confrontation today took place there as well. Greg Vandergrift reports.
The contest winner's face will be posted around town with a reward.
And if someone finds you, they'll get $100, and this is one reward for finding a missing person that really will be paid.
KFMH station manager Steve Bridges was out to make a point today via the contest. The reward for Terry Willets waits to be paid.
Okay, does it bother you as a woman that the Women's Resource Center will not pay their reward if they have problems?
Bridges' beef is with the Women's Resource Center, a group Willets helped found.
There's no accountability here. Whether Terry Willets was abducted or not is not the central issue anymore. It's whether there will be credibility the next time someone is abducted, or we think someone is abducted. Will the Quad Cities rally to it?
The crowd was small, but the debate lively.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Protesters came to lecture Bridges, upset that he was making fun of the case.
Guys clearly are in it for the publicity, and it is unfortunate in the financial gain.
You know what I think of it? I think it's a crying shame that victims are victimized over and over and over again by our society.
Women's Resource Center member and friend of Willets, Jane Duax, came as a private citizen. As for the reward, claims are due August 1st.
The Women's Resource Center is involved by default just because there were numerous groups that wanted to raise a reward, and it just happened that we did it.
The event was recorded today. A tape and letters are for filing a complaint with the FCC. Duax isn't the only one upset by this. She says Terry Willets is too. Greg Vandergrift, Activate News, Davenport.
Hi, in Chicago.
A Northside theater owner dressed in a Batman suit wanted to jump from a helicopter.
Again, no one was hurt in the accident. Police on the south side of Muscatine will likely remember this 4th of July for a long time to come. This morning, many of them were evacuated from their homes following an explosion at a nearby fuel processing station. Greg Vandergrift was there. He has this report.
By 9 o'clock this morning, there was only a trickle of flaming odorant, the substance that gives natural gas its smell. Still, scorched utility poles, smoking railroad ties, and a melted fence revealed the intense heat of a 2.5-hour blaze that began around 6:15. John Brammer's home was just a field away.
And then all of a sudden, boom, it went like 80 foot in the air, a big ball of fire.
Company officials suspect a leak at the juncture of their gas line and an incoming line. What caused it and ignited the gas aren't known.
Worst accident you've ever had here? Well, as far as I know, yes. Yeah.
Firefighters were held off by the tremendous heat. Eventually, the gas company put the blaze out by shutting the line. In between, authorities evacuated some 500 people in a 1-mile radius out of fear these propane tanks would blow.
My wife and son was still asleep, so, I had to wake them up, and that's some surprise, Get up, the house may blow up,
The one thing that was really on our side this morning was that the wind was blowing away from those tanks. And the only damage done to those tanks is we had just a little bit of blistering on one of the tanks.
Repairs began to the surrounding damaged area within 4 hours of the fire. Officials aren't sure how long it will take to determine what caused this, but one thing is certain, they're thankful no one was hurt. Greg Vandegrift, Active 8 News, Muscatine.
Affiliation.
The City Council tonight voted 4-3 in favor of such an ordinance after an emotional debate. Now gays in Muscatine have a means of fighting back if they think they aren't treated fairly. The measure prohibits discrimination in employment, housing services, and credit. The reference to political parties caused some comment tonight, but it was the matter of sexual preference that fueled the controversy at the City Council meeting in Muscatine.
I have had great response. In order to enjoy sexual experience, there is a problem with their psyche. From ancient Sodom to modern San Francisco, there is sufficient evidence for homosexual activity that it is at least suspect of being unnatural, undesirable distortion of the sex drive.
Opponents say their fight isn't over yet.
Some adult bookstore employees say they'd rather quit than get a porno.
The pressure is on the mayor of Muscatine because of a new ordinance protecting homosexual rights.
It's up to the mayor to either veto the ordinance or sign it into law. Those supporting the proposal are urging the mayor to sign the ordinance. But those opposed say the law will force them to hire or rent to homosexuals against their will. Katie Sy spoke to the mayor as he sits in the center of the controversy.
Right at this point, I'm taking advice. I'm open for suggestions from everyone.
Muscatine Mayor Don Lamar has 14 days to decide if he'll veto or approve a controversial new city ordinance that says it's illegal to discriminate because of someone's sexual preference or political beliefs.
We wanted to have it in the city code before we had a problem.
An organized group called Concerned Citizens for Muscatine says residents shouldn't be forced to rent to or hire homosexuals.
If you do rent to these people, you are in effect accepting their lifestyle as perfectly acceptable, and that's the thing we object to.
In a printed pamphlet, the group claims the ordinance could attract homosexuals to Muscatine, scaring away businesses and taking away jobs.
And I think there's a lot of fear in the community about things that people don't really understand.
Concerned Citizens for Muscatine have been very active in the community, passing out these pamphlets and petitions. In just a few weeks, they were able to collect 1,200 signatures opposing the amendment. Despite violent protests prior to and at the City Council meeting, aldermen approved the ordinance by a 4-3 vote, leaving the final decision to the mayor, who's being pressured to veto the proposal.
Well, I stand in the middle. I'm going to take advice, calls, and then within the 14 days, I'll make up my mind whether to veto it or not to veto it.
If the mayor takes no action, the amendment automatically becomes law. Katie Sy, 4 News, Muscatine.
If it becomes law, Muscatine will become the second city in Iowa with a statute protecting the rights of homosexuals.
Iowa City has a similar ordinance on the books, and joining us now is Rock Island gay rights activist Jack Johnson. And Mr. Johnson, why do homosexuals feel they need special laws protecting their rights?
Well, we're just like the black community back, and we're just now coming out, and you know, that we need to be protected because, you know, we're fighting for our own rights. We want to be treated just equal in that because we're normal. You know, a lot of people feel that we're different now because we have a different view and a different style of life. And we're not different. We're the same. We're just like you, and we're just like everybody else, except that our preference, you know, goes behind closed doors. And that shouldn't be anybody's business except ours, because all we are is consenting adults.
Well, you personally, Mr. Johnson, have you ever been discriminated against because of your sexual preference?
Yes, many times I've been discriminated against because, you know, I was in the military, and I was discriminated a lot in the military. And a lot of times when I was out in California, I was discriminated on, and I get flack now a lot of times at work because I wear an earring in my ear. And I shouldn't get flack like that because I do my job and I do the best I can, and all I expect is to be treated like a normal human being, and that's all I expect everybody else to do.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
6 this morning, high-tension drama was taking place in Muscatine. 2 people are dead following a high-speed chase on the south edge of Muscatine. The Iowa Highway Patrol was chasing a van believed involved in the burglary and vandalism.
As a new winner in the category of world's longest sausage.
A van from a florist shop in Burlington. After the men allegedly stole the van, it was reportedly involved in a hit-and-run accident across the river in Gulfport, Illinois. An Iowa State patrolman started chasing the vehicle on Highway 61 after it crossed back over the river into Iowa. The driver lost control, headed around a curve, crashed into a commercial feed building, and burst into flames. The state police car also went out of control on the ice and hit a grain elevator in a gas station, leaving the trooper with minor injuries. And even though conditions were icy, police say high-speed pursuit was appropriate and necessary.
Troopers don't like chases, and we don't like chases. No one likes these chases because the trooper and the law-abiding motoring public, what concerned the trooper at the time was it was being operated in an erratic manner. At one time, this vehicle traveled in the opposite lane for 3/4 of a mile over hills and around curves and so forth. A vehicle being operated by an individual like this is the type of pursuit that we feel we cannot give up.
Using dental and other medical records, pathologists think they have identified the 2 men killed in the crash, but they are taking more tests to make sure they are positive.
Claim the life of a Muscatine teenager. The boys walking behind Jameson slipped and fell, triggering the shot. Jameson was then flown to university hospitals where he later died.